In a recent interview, ex-Formula One racer Nico Rosberg revealed his pre-race habit, which, spoiler, is pretty gross. In today's video, we're going to dive into what the former racer used to do before his big events and why it's so gross. Along with that, we're going to answer some other F1 questions, such as what happened at the previous Russian GP, what's the upcoming GP going to look like, and what happened to Lando Norris. So to start off, what's going on in the Formula One world? For one, F1 recently made a historic first after announcing the first ever Qatar Grand Prix after there were some shakeups in their calendar. Coming up in November, Qatar will be holding its first Formula One Grand Prix and will be replacing the cancelled Australian GP. The big race will take place on November 21st at the Lusail International Circuit, north of Doha. It'll also form the first part of a Middle Eastern ending to the Formula One season. It'll be followed by races in Saudi Arabia and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which will end this season. But what else makes this moment so big? Well, according to reports, this won't just be a one-off event, as Qatar has also signed a 10-year deal that'll allow them to host Formula One racers from 2023. The Australian Grand Prix is usually a season opener, but this year was moved to later on in the season due to COVID-19 restrictions. Regardless of their changes, though, the race was still canceled for a second year running. Nonetheless, F1 president and CEO Stefano Domenicali expressed his excitement to be welcoming Qatar, adding the statement, "There is a huge interest in our sport and the hope from many locations to have a Grand Prix. The huge effort from all have made it possible to deliver a 22-race calendar, something that is very impressive and something we can all be proud of." So what can we expect to see in the upcoming Qatar GP? The answer? Well, nothing's for sure. In fact, it seems like it could be anyone's game. It's quite close, as Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are at the top, with only 2 points separating the two. But what is well known is the Qatar Grand Prix could end up having a massive say in who takes the chocolates at the end of the season. During the Russian Grand Prix, which recently took place, Verstappen pulled off what seems to be a miracle after he finished second after starting dead last on the grid due to a penalty. However, until Verstappen, the other racers weren't as lucky, which leads us to the question of what happened to Lando Norris, and how did he end up falling from first place to 7th? Although it was a celebration for fellow F1 racer Lewis Hamilton as he secured his 100th victory at the Russian GP, it wasn't such a happy day for Lando Norris. The McLaren driver was robbed of the chance to stand on top of the podium due to the rain on the last few laps. Having claimed pole position and qualifying the previous day, the young Brit found himself entangled in a battle with 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton in the Russian GP before a disaster struck. Light rain started falling on the Sochi track with less than 10 laps remaining, leaving the drivers with a difficult decision to make: either stay out and fight the weather or return to the pits to change tires. While Hamilton made the decision to switch to intermediate wet weather tires, Norris opted to stay out to try to maintain a lead. Unfortunately for the young racer, he struggled to keep control of his car due to the slippery track, causing him to swerve around in the wet conditions. Eventually, though, Norris pitted, but it ultimately caused him to finish 7th, which was rather gutting considering he was in the lead for most of the race. In an Instagram post, Norris posted, "It hurts so badly. Pain for me and pain for the team. We lost this together, but I and we will come back stronger and better. I know it." Aside from Norris' unfortunate event, F1 racers were served with shocking and rather gross news from ex-F1 world champ Nico Rosberg. But what is the big revelation, and why have so many found it to be disgusting? The former Formula One world champion recently revealed his horrifying pre-race bathroom habit. While walking along the grid before the Dutch Grand Prix, Rosberg revealed that he would often urinate in his racing suit before all of the action began. The German racer gave an insight to what the drivers may be doing before everything starts, diving into his gross habit without a word of warning. He went on to explain that at the beginning of his career, he couldn't even be bothered to go to the bathroom, mainly because of how distracting it is to walk through the crowd, find the bathroom, and so on. After Rosberg made the shocking revelation, he continued to walk around the grid and awkwardly attempt to make conversation with multiple mechanics and team officials, though no one seemed too willing to make much conversation with the ex-racer, as the most he got was a simple thumbs up or an acknowledging nod of the head. Rosberg went on to further elaborate more on his bizarre bathroom decisions, explaining that he never told the mechanics at Williams about his bathroom shenanigans, and even revealed that he went on to do the same when he was with Mercedes. And while after speaking on his rather odd pre-race habit, Sky Sports presenter Simon Lazenby caught up with Rosberg after he had completed his unusual grid walk, wanting to clarify the former racer's peculiar pre-race bathroom runs. Seemingly a bit shocked, the presenter asked Rosberg if he had just recently admitted that he used to go to the bathroom in the car. Rosberg responded with a strong yes, and even had a strangely reasonable explanation for his decision to drench his race suit in urine before the action would commence, stating, "Because it's only a little one, I promise you, having a full bladder whilst you're racing at 300 kilometers per hour is the worst feeling possible. You can't do it whilst racing because you have all the adrenaline, so you have to make sure that you plan that properly." So that's it for the rather odd bathroom stories from Rosberg, right? Apparently not, as he revealed that he has multiple stories of toilet drama. Stay tuned to find out. Evidently, as he revealed by Rosberg himself, the bathroom drama with Williams and Mercedes wasn't the only one of the racer's career, as he revealed in a chat with Daniel Ricciardo in 2019 that racing legend Michael Schumacher would wage mental warfare on his teammates, explaining that there was only one toilet in the garage, that Schumacher was occupying it. It was just 10 minutes before things started, and Rosberg apparently always had a 2-minute session for his last bathroom break, would then jump in the car and go for qualifying. According to Rosberg, he knocked on the door and stated that it was him and he needed to go to the bathroom, because usually the mechanics would then know that in that moment he would be the priority. However, there was no answer to Rosberg's knocks and the door was still locked. Though he could hear that someone was in there, well, it turned out that Schumacher was in there the whole time, leaning up against the wall looking at his watch, as he knew that as long as he made it out with 3 minutes to go, he could just simply jump in the car, put the seatbelts on, and go before losing actual time. So instead, Rosberg, surprisingly or not, peed in an oil bucket in the corner. Since speaking on Rosberg, what was his career like? What were some of the biggest achievements, and what led to him and Lewis Hamilton in a constant rivalry? As the son of 1982 world champion Keke Rosberg, the moment he stepped foot in a race car, Nico was bound to always feel pressure to follow in his father's F1 footsteps. But aside from his many achievements, such as placing second in the Formula One World Championship, one of the biggest aspects of Rosberg's career that will be remembered is his controversial rivalry with Lewis Hamilton. Their rivalry was something the sport had not seen since the days of Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost. They constantly aimed to one-up the other, which ultimately caused their careers to become entwined. Perhaps, though, the reason why Rosberg and Hamilton's rivalry was so intense and intriguing is that it was, interestingly enough, born out of a pretty good friendship. Rosberg knew how to get in Hamilton's head, and Hamilton knew how to utilize Rosberg's weaknesses. They spent 4 seasons together at Mercedes, which led to an impressive pile of 51 wins between the two, 32 for Hamilton and 22 for Rosberg. While Hamilton also secured 2 world titles to Rosberg's 1, however, the 2016 season, where Rosberg secured this one and only F1 World Championship win, was one of the most tense and dramatic in history. Hamilton outscored his teammate in race wins by 10-9, but Rosberg's consistency and better finishing record ultimately led to him clinching the title by just 5 points, despite Hamilton's late season flourish that saw him win the final 4 races. Nonetheless, with all of this aside, the intensity of the two's relationship has cooled down some, leaving Rosberg to admit that he was not Hamilton's equal, and even described his former teammates' record equaling 7th title as one of the greatest sporting achievements ever. With that said, that's going to wrap up this video. What did you think of Rosberg's pre-race habit? Let us know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.